Good morning, everyone. I invite you to take a moment to enter into a space of rest, meditation, and quiet contemplation as we enter this service by listening to the prelude.
Welcome and good morning. I'm David Wilkinson. I'm the Vice President of the Board of Trustees, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that you're joining us today. I politely ask that you please put your phones into our worship mode and silence them so that we can all have a peaceful time together in this service. I'd like to welcome everybody that is here, those of you that have been here many, many times before, and those of you that are joining us for the first time. If you are and you want to know more about our church, come see me or anybody else that's wearing a name tag, and we'll gladly talk to you about this church, especially over our coffee hour at the end. We really enjoy coffee. Oh, not today. You ruined my whole speech. I just talk about coffee. It's like the lifeblood of our existence. Now I got to figure out a whole new speech. Okay. Any other day, talk to us about coffee. But another reason I'm here is to talk to us and everybody about why I'm here at this church. And one of those things is about community and why I give to the church. The reason I became part of this church is I started many, many years ago, 20-some years ago. This blonde little woman decided to invite me to come to church with her and said, hey, do you want to come to church with me? And I said, sure, I guess. You know, I wasn't very much of a church-going person, but I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. And so Sunday morning came out, and I'm like, all right, let's go to church. And 20 years later, 20-some plus years later, here I am. And what did I find? I found that I have a sense of community. I have great friends. Friends that I can talk about the nerdy stuff in my life, you know, Star Trek. Those of you that know. I have people that are my extended family that when I have hard times, I can lean on. And I think that's so important today in light of everything that's going on in this world. we need to have that family. We need to have those friends that we can lean on. And part of that ability to lean on people is to have this church, this community. And I don't know where I would be without that. And each and every time I come up here, it's a nerve-wracking. I'm like, what am I going to say? And I will tell you, my wife's like, you're going to write down the speech, right? And I'm like, no. But, so I give to this church, and we give money, but I also give time. I'm part of the choir when I can be part of the choir. I'm part of the board. I'm part of the ministerial search committee that's going on right now. And not everybody can give money, but when you can, give what you can. When you can give time, give your time. Because what does that do to us? It brings us together as a community. And community is important. And each and one of you brings something to that community. Maybe it's the ability for somebody to come into the choir one week and teach us German because we were saying the words so terrible. And she did a wonderful job of doing a great job of making our pronunciation just a little bit better. Thank you, Greta. Maybe it's coming in and helping our congregation when we were without a minister and helping us once a month with that service. Somebody that's been singing me for 20 plus years when I went to a different church. After a little blonde lady said, hey, do you want to come? So everybody, take it in your hearts. Take this community. See what you can give. Give it, if it's a little bit of time, give a little more time. If you can give a little more money, give a little more money. We like money. But give what you can give. And remember, it's the little ones that are getting antsy right now, so I'm going to let you go, and thank you guys so much. And please, enjoy the service. Find the peace and solitude that it brings. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Akko to come forward and light our chalice for us this morning. We light this chalice in honor of the families we build, the circles we choose, the bonds shaped by care. May this flame remind us that love is the tie that makes us kin. And now I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 311. I remember Fran saying to me one time that the thing that kept her living so long, the two things were gratitude and folk dancing. So may we practice gratitude today, and let us rise in body or in spirit and sing and sway. Let it be a dance.
And now it's time for the message for all ages. So if all the children and those young at heart can come on forward. So the book that I am reading this morning is called I Am You, a book about Ubuntu. And Ubuntu it means because I am, you are. The word Ubuntu comes from the Nguni languages of Zulu and Xhosa. And it's the idea that a person is a person because of other people. But not just other people, but all the living things in the world. That we're connected to everybody, and that we're connected to all the living things in the world. So when I look into your eyes, I see myself. I am you. When I look into your eyes, I see your heart. I embrace you. So it's all the living things as well, not just people. When I look into your eyes, I see your beauty. I love you, and because I love you, I love myself too. When I smile, as our eyes meet, when I hug you as I say hello, when I share what little I have with you, and when I walk home with you after school, I love you, and I love myself too. When I listen as you tell me your stories, when I dance as I see you dance, when I laugh as I hear you laugh, when I hold your hands as you cry, I love you and I love myself too. We may look different, you and I, and sound different, but we are one. And all these kids are speaking different languages that I'm not even going to try. Act different, eat different food, and live in different places, but our hearts beat the same. I am you. To hurt myself, to hurt you, is to hurt myself. To tease you is to tease myself. To ignore you is to ignore myself. Do you see the little girl in the back? I am you. To care for you is to care for myself. To be gentle with you is to be gentle with myself. To be kind to you is to be kind to myself. I am you, and you are me. I am because we are one. And I really, really believe that. Especially in this community, we are all connected. But we're also connected to the city, the people in the city that you don't even know. We're all connected. And all the people in the country and in the world, even if you don't know them, we're all connected. And that's what Ubuntu means. And now it's time for the children's blessing. We are blessed. We are blessed by being. We are blessed by being here. We are blessed by being here together.
Part of being in community is sharing our joys and our sorrows with one another. We draw strength from celebrating the joys in each other's lives and lending support, comfort, and care when we experience one of life's many sorrows. We offer you two ways to express the joys and sorrows that may be on your heart this morning, spoken and unspoken. If you would like to share a spoken joy or sorrow, I'll ask you to come forward to the microphone first, or you may raise your hand and a microphone will be brought to you. Once the spoken joys and sorrows are finished, you may come forward and light a candle to represent the unspoken joy or sorrow that is on your heart. Please remember that our services is being streamed online, so be sure that any spoken joy or sorrow you share is one you are comfortable sharing with the wider community. Those that would like to share spoken joys or sorrows may come forward at this time.
I'm trying to be concise, so I'm going to try to follow this. I'm Carol Pusely. Can you hear me? Okay. As a Reverend D would say, it's good to be here. This is really a gem testimonial and a shared memory. Around 40 years ago, I told my friend Susan Goff about OBUUC and Tony singing The Rainbow Connection. Soon after, she and her husband joined our church. When we had Hanukkah services, she or one of her 3 children would light the menorah. I think it was about this time her marriage was breaking up that I first saw Vince Calder when he stood up during Joys and Concerns and thanked Tony and the church for saving his life. A while later, Susan and Vince met in an OBUUC divorce group. 25 years ago, Tony married Susan and Vince in our beautiful OBUUC church. Vince sang in the OBUUC choir, and Susan was a vital member of the church. When they retired, they spent winters in Tucson, Arizona, and joined the Mount View UU Church, where they both sang in the choir and were actively involved. On February 16th, Vince Calder passed over the Rainbow Bridge in their Arizona home. And Susan lost the love of her life. His memory will live on in the hearts of those who knew him.
Good morning. I'm Greta Monroe. I use she, her pronouns. Unfortunately, I have a sorrow to share. This week, a new law in Kansas, SB 244, immediately invalidated the driver's licenses of approximately 1,700, 1,800 members of the transgender community. This occurred because the state legally redefined sex to mean only the biological sex assigned at birth, rendering any previously updated IDs incorrect. There was no grace period. Overnight, these individuals were stripped of their legal right to move through the world. To regain their right to drive, these individuals now are now forced to go to the DMV to surrender their current licenses and pay for replacements that list their sex assigned at birth. This creates a cruel paradox. They must find a way to go to the DMV to change their status, yet they cannot legally drive themselves there. Because invalidation was instant, many now face terrifying reality. They cannot drive to get groceries or being tardy because they're late to work. They are cut from driving to pharmacies for life-saving medications. To drive now is a criminal offense risking jail time and heavy fines. The danger of forced mismatch, the law forces members of the transgender community to carry ideas that create a deliberate, hazardous conflict. Imagine a passing transgender individual at a traffic stop. The potentially conservative officer sees name and photograph that match the person in the car, but a sex marker that does not. This forced outing puts individuals at high risk for suspicion and harassment during routine interactions. It strips away their privacy and safety at the bank, the airport, and every corner of public life where an ID is required. Though we do not live in Kansas, we must not look away. We are called to honor the humanity of the transgender community where the law refuses to. Let us hold them in our hearts and stand firm in the belief that everyone deserves to live with dignity, safety, and the right to provide for themselves. States with similar laws are Florida, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Texas, with others potentially to follow. Currently, transgender individuals, I'm almost done, are not able to obtain a passport with matching gender markers due to an executive order. When the court ordered my name change, there was a temporary injunction in place, and I rushed from the courthouse to the post office 3 days before the effect, due to a Supreme Court decision went back in effect. I received my updated passport, which remains valid. I'm thankful for that.
If you would like to light a candle for an unspoken joy or sorrow, please come forward at this time. We light one final candle for the joys and sorrows that are on the hearts of our beloveds joining us online. There is a love holding us always. May we rest in that love. Amen and blessed be. All are invited to join in singing There Is a Love. The words are in your order of service.
So good morning. I'm Patty Fitchett. I'm the Director of Community Worship at your sibling congregation down Highway 32. I'm happy to be with you this morning. Our first reading is by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I was delighted to find out that it was about Viola Liuzzo, who, as many of you probably know, is a UU martyr along with Reverend James Reeb. If you're unfamiliar, Ta-Nehisi Coates is a progressive American author, journalist, and activist. He gained a wide readership during his time as national correspondent at The Atlantic, where he wrote about cultural, social, and political issues, particularly regarding African Americans and white supremacy. He now works at Vanity Fair. You might know him best as the author of the 2015 National Book Award winner, Between the World and Me. He says, "In these moments, I find comfort and inspiration in ancestors and martyrs. More than half a century ago, as the writer Jelani Cobb recently noted, activist Viola Liuzzo, a housewife and mother of 5, and also a UU, left her family in Detroit and headed south to join the March to Montgomery, and in the process left the privileges of white ladyhood behind. For transgressing against the homeland of that era, the neo-Confederate South, Liuzzo was murdered by white supremacists. Just as Renee Good was slandered by the Homeland authorities as a domestic terrorist and an effing bitch, Liuzzo was slandered by the Homeland's rulers as a heroin addict and a nymphomaniac who'd gone south to make a cuckold of her husband. But the slander itself was revelatory, for it demonstrated the Homeland's perverse, exacting norms, its obsession with hierarchy, its rigid borders, and the high price levied on anyone who dared cross them. Forces of the neo-Confederate South did not simply represent a threat to African Americans, as was the popular perception, Cobb wrote. They were a mortal danger to anyone who disagreed with them, regardless of the person's race, background, or gender. Perhaps we are in such a moment now, where a death demonstrates to the country the broad nature of the threat. But this is a passive hope, and in Liuzzo's life, we find a more active call to action. Liuzzo was born into poverty. Her father was a coal miner, her husband a union organizer. Hers was the kind of salt-of-the-earth family often celebrated in the anthems of the homeland. Whereas the homeland sees freedom as the sole prerogative of its tribe, Liuzzo's vision extended out to humanity itself. While understanding the economic exploitation of her family, she also understood that whiteness had enrolled her in the exploitation of others. When Liuzzo acquired this knowledge, when she got woke, she was transfigured into a traitor to her race and a menace to the homeland. For being a menace, for being woke, she was killed, as was Renee Good, as was Alex Preddy. But revelations have their blessings too. In this case, a life, however brief, that is clean and does not depend on the oppression and debasement of others. the revelation of deep human ties, the belief that we are all equally chosen, doomed liuso, good and pretty, as Revelation so often does. But it also immortalized them.
There are many ways we give to the life of our church, and the monetary offering is just one of these ways. Each month, we partner with a local organization and share the money we collect. Our partner for March is the Racine Friendship Clubhouse. Katie Ransvold is here this morning to tell us about their organization. Welcome, Katie. Come on up.
First, I want to thank you all for having me here, and thank you for your contributions to our organization. The Racine Friendship Clubhouse has been serving the adults in Racine County with mental illness officially since 1995. The organization actually started in 1991. They started working to bring a clubhouse to Racine. The clubhouse model was started in New York in 1948 with the foundation of the Fountain House, which is still in operations today. There are many clubhouses in Wisconsin. They operate throughout the country, and they are also international. They operate in 32 countries. The Racine the clubhouse model is based on adults living with mental illness being an active participant in their mental health recovery versus a passive recipient of treatment. This means that our members run and organize the majority of the programs within our clubhouse. Our clubhouse, the clubhouse model in our clubhouse run the work order day program, which is the staple of most clubhouses. That is the active running of our organization. Our members do everything from the reception work, answering phones, responding to emails, cleaning and organizing of the clubhouse. We have lunch during our program every day. The members create the menus, do the grocery shopping, all the prep work, and make lunch, then clean up lunch. We're also considered a food pantry here in Racine, so they do all of the inventory tracking, all of the stuff that has to happen for our reporting for that. They are active participants in all of the advocacy and education work that we do at the clubhouse, partnered with a lot with NAMI of Racine County. We do a lot of advocacy with them. And then we also work on all of our members' goals. And I could stand here and talk for days just about that. But vocational, educational, social, emotional, health and wellness, all of those goals. Mental illness has touched everybody's lives at this point. 1 in 5 adults has at some point lived with a mental illness. The clubhouse focuses more on the more severe mental illnesses. Schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder, et cetera, et cetera. But mental illness having touched everybody's lives, more than likely everybody in this room has either had a mental illness or knows someone who deals with mental illness on a daily basis. Our goal for our members is to assist them in going back to school, getting a job, volunteering. And most of the time, our work is just being there, answering questions, helping give them the confidence that they need to do it themselves. One of my favorite stories, and I will be done talking to you guys and let you get on with your service, is one of our members. She was in her early 60s when we started this process. Her goal was to get her GED. She had dropped out of school when she had her oldest child at 16 and had wanted to go back to get her GED. Her daughters had encouraged her, and now her grandchildren were also encouraging her to do this. But going to the actual school building was not going to work for her. That was too much new, too many new things, created too much anxiety. So we worked with her and got her enrolled in the online HSED program, which means that she didn't just get her GED. She got an actual high school diploma. And all she needed from staff was someone to sit, not even in the same room with her, in the same area as her, in case she needed help with the computer, because technology can be a struggle for everybody. So she just needed somebody there in case the Zoom wouldn't work or her breakout room wasn't connecting or something like that. And then every once in a while, she needed help with a question or a math problem or something. But after 42 years, in 24, she received her HSED with all of her children, some of whom had to travel back to the state of Wisconsin, and her grandchildren there to support her. She received her diploma. Again, I want to thank you guys for having me here. Like I said, I could talk all day. So unfortunately, I can't stick around after the service. I have a celebration of life I have to get to, but I have cards and brochures I'm going to leave. Feel free to call or email me. I will gladly talk your ear off for days about the successes of our members. And I really would like to thank you guys for all that you do for our community. And I know they had said something about, money isn't always an option. We do have volunteer opportunities if you would like to come help us at the clubhouse. We love it when people come share their talents, experiences, expertise with us. Thank you guys very much.
All right, I'll start with one of my favorite sources, the Reverend Kimberly Debus. She says, over the last, probably 30 years or so, there have been a lot of conversations about those people who identify as some sort of spiritual but not religious, or as we've come to call them, the nuns, N-O-N-E-S. Entire outreach programs have been developed to reach those people, many of whom are not religious for any number of reasons: mistrust of organized religion, discomfort in large groups, schedules that don't work, different priorities, etc. Sometimes congregations will get lucky and attract people who identify this way, often through outside programming, like concerts, lectures, bazaars, markets, etc. But mostly the spiritual but not religious, while maybe agreeing with much of what you espouse, will stay away. She says, a few months ago, Ryan Brugge, who writes here at Graphs About Religion, looked at some recent surveys that broke down that group further. His observations became a discussion point in my collegial circles, and the conversation was intriguing, to be sure. But it also kept circling around the same observations, questions, and desires to attract this group. I pretty much stopped paying attention to the discussion until someone uttered the phrase, religious but not spiritual. At the time, it was barely noticed, but I've been thinking about it since. Who are the people that are religious but not spiritual? What is that about? And what effect is it having on our congregations? She says, not surprisingly, I have some thoughts. No evidence, to be sure. I've not studied this with surveys and data analysis and graphs, but still, here are some of the ideas that have been rolling around in my head. People come to us seeking community with like-minded people, which is a topic for another day. They like the cut of our jib, the way we focus on community, the events we produce, our stances on various social justice issues. They probably like our theological stances on women and queer folk, and probably our acceptance of the world's wisdom. These are people who came looking for an intellectual and emotional safe space and never left. Some of them came specifically for our political stances and prioritize our social justice goals. Many are likely to have some spiritual wounds, perhaps from a strict childhood religion or experiences in fundamentalism or bad theology used as a weapon against core parts of their identity. In some cases, a class in philosophy might have provided comfort as they discovered existentialism or nihilism, and they've sought out groups that made space for their humanism, and in some cases, their atheism. Some folks come only to ensure that their children get a liberal religious education. And while some parents drop their kids off, some come to be in the building while their kids are in classes and somehow find themselves involved. I'm glad people find us. I'm glad we can be a community that helps them find others, do good work, and maybe find purpose. She says, I know I've described almost everyone who comes to us, but what separates the religious but not spiritual from the seeker is this: they are not at all invested in their spiritual well-being. These are the people who complain about anything that smacks of theology, God talk, touchy-feely stuff. They don't like when we do rituals. They don't even like when we interrupt a conversation with a worship service. And sometimes they don't even come to worship, but they're standing at the door as we conclude the postlude, ready for coffee hour and the meetings that might follow. These are the people that will serve on 10 different committees, but choose to go skiing or hiking on a Sunday morning because nature is my church. Religious but not spirituals are not interested in the actual spiritual content we long to provide. And what I fear happens in too many congregations, she says, is that we try to cater to them, to prioritize the coming together and diluting the praying together. We prioritize the intellectual sermon over the spiritually deepening sermon. We lean into wishy-washy language about belief and theology, and we do this in favor of keeping them in our pews in our meeting rooms. This isn't a new problem, by the way. In the early 2000s, there was a lot of discussion about how to gently reinduce what the UUA president at the time, Bill Sinkford, called the language of reverence. This is an issue because too many other seekers come to our doors, sit in our pews, and don't feel anything spiritual is happening. They're longing for, craving, desperate for it. But when we flatten our words and remove any possibility for spiritual deepening to happen in our pews, we shut out those who need us most. We become unwelcoming. We create a club where outsiders cannot belong unless they buy into this one mode of being. But I think there are things we can do to continue welcoming the religious but not spirituals and helping them embrace the spiritual without compromising who we are and who we want to become. So the question is, but how? But how? And so I found an article by the Reverend Cameron Trimble, and I will use they, them pronouns for Cameron because I don't know what kind of pronouns they use. So Reverend Cameron says, "This week I've been in San Francisco with a group of people from around the world, scholars, artists, elders, venture capitalists, spiritual guides, nonprofit leaders, and organizers, each carrying deep questions about the state of our world. Together, we've been sitting in inquiry. How did we arrive at this moment of unraveling? Political, ecological, spiritual. What could we offer truthfully and tenderly that might make a difference? We don't have answers. But one truth has emerged with clarity. If there is to be a future worth living into, we must shift from me into we. It's not just as a slogan or a marketing tagline, but as a spiritual and cultural turning. In a me paradigm, we are taught that the self is separate. Meaning comes from personal success, security, or control. The goal of life is to protect what's mine, achieve what I can, and maybe offer charity if I have anything left over. This story of separateness has shaped our institutions, our economy, and even our faith traditions, and it's killing us. The we paradigm tells a different story. It says that we are not isolated individuals. We are participants in a living web of relationship. Our well-being is bound up with the well-being of others. We belong not only to families and communities, but to watersheds, to ancestors, to the soil beneath our feet and the stars above our heads. In this view, there is no such thing as private salvation. There is only mutual thriving or collective collapse. This shift from me to we isn't theoretical. It's a rite of passage. Like all rites of passage, it asks something of us. It invites us to undergo a transformation that is spiritual, emotional, relational. It's not an ascent into certainty, but a descent into deeper truth. It's not a transcendence, but a rerouting. This is what we begin to call enlightenment, the process of waking up not out of the world, but into it, becoming more alive by becoming more connected, more attuned, more responsible to the whole. For many, the journey begins in disillusionment. A relationship ends, a system fails, a faith fractures. We see something we cannot unsee. The story we were handed doesn't hold anymore. It hurts, but it's also the beginning of clarity. But clarity isn't enough. Something deeper is required, a marking of the threshold, a ritual initiation into a new way of seeing and being. When we cross that threshold consciously, we begin to shed the armor of self-protection and step into a different kind of responsibility. Responsibility. We emerge not as heroes, but as kin, not alone, but together. As we step into this we consciousness, we begin to feel the truth in our bodies, embodied interdependence. We are not separate. Our breath belongs to the trees. Our grief echoes across generations. Our joy is multiplied in community. This is not just spiritual language. It is biological, ecological, ancestral. But knowing this isn't enough. We need structures that support it. We need shared practices, covenants, systems rooted not in domination, but in dignity. We need communities of practice where we live out these new patterns of relating. Without structure, love fades. With the right structure, love becomes a sustaining force. Eventually, we begin to live from a new story, one where identity is not about achievement or dominance, but about interconnection and belonging. We see ourselves not as consumers or brands, but as part of a great unfolding, stewards of life, not owners of it. From that place, a culture of reverence begins to take shape. Reverence for land, for language, for limits, for one another. When reverence returns, extractive logic unravels. When awe becomes ordinary again, care becomes inevitable. This is the shift that could give us a future worth living into. It won't happen all at once, but it is already underway. in sanctuaries and gardens, in community meals and protest lines, in quiet moments of surrender and unexpected acts of courage. We are not here to transcend life. We are here to be transformed by it, not as isolated individuals trying to escape the fire, but as people learning again how to walk each other home. We are in this together. Amen. And now, if you could, please rise in body or in spirit. And I'm going to teach you a new chant. So if you'll just repeat after me, the words are in your order of service. I'll teach it to you once, and then we'll sing it through 3 times. So I'll sing, then you sing. Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. Just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. 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 All right, should we give it a try? Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. Just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. 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 Forget your perfect offering. Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. Ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. 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 Forget your perfect offering. Just ring the bells that still can ring. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. 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 Amen. Jane, can you extinguish our chalice for us, please? As we leave this sacred hour, may the welcome we received become the welcome we extend. Let us meet the world with open hearts, open hands, and the audacity to build spaces where every soul feels at home. We have gathered in the sacred act of continuing. Resilience is not triumph. Instead, it is tending and returning. As we leave, may we carry the truth that even quiet endurance is holy work. When the world presses, may we root deeper. When it softens, may we rise again. Amen.
morning. I'm Gregory Mason. It's time for some announcements, and we'll start with Diane Lang.
Thank you. On behalf of Dina Lieberman and myself, we wanted to give an update on our annual stewardship campaign known as Generosity and Engagement Ministry. That's where the GEM comes from, just so you're clear on that. So we started the kickoff campaign 2 weeks ago, and as of last evening, we have raised a total of $168,303. Thank you. That is something to be applauded. Thank you, those of you on YouTube with us. We have one more house party coming up, and the sign-up is in the fellowship hall. Even though we're not doing fellowship today, there's only 3 slots left. So if you'd like to go to Teddy Winnett and Russ Skewey's home on Wednesday, March 11th, it's at 1 in the afternoon. Scurry on out and get your names on the board. In 2 weeks, we're going to be having a drawing for a lovely gift basket. Anyone who has made a commitment by that time will have their name entered in the drawing. There'll be wine, chocolates, and a couple of good gift cards in there. Your signed commitment can be made online. There are also a couple of blank forms over here for those of you that did not receive it in the mail this week. This lovely basket, you can also drop them in there. It will be out each week. Or you can put them in the basket for the offertory when that comes around. What we share together helps build community for all of us. Giving is a practice and a discipline. It's part of living our shared faith. So I'm asking you, please give now, and put on your calendar that on Friday, May 15th, will be our celebration dinner, and all of you who have given by then are welcome to come for a lovely free dinner. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Fran Scott's Celebration of Life is this afternoon at 3 p.m. here in the sanctuary. There will be visitation from 2 p.m. until the start of the service. First Presbyterian is again planning on having spring flowers for Easter. There are extra order forms on the credenza if you didn't get one in your order of service. You can also order online or scan the QR code on the form. There is also a link in today's email. Each plant is $17, and the deadline to get orders and payment in is next Sunday. Checks should be made payable to First Presbyterian Church with flowers in the memo line. You'll be able to take a plant home with you after the service on Easter. March 15, First Presbyterian will be having their Cuban sandwich luncheon in support of their sister church in Cuba. We have been invited to help support this mission, and we will be having our own Cuban sandwich luncheon. It will be a fellowship potluck following the service on March 15th downstairs in the dining room. Our sandwiches need to be ordered today, so if you want to attend that and have a sandwich, you need to order it today. The sign-up is over on the credenza. The suggested donation is $10 and is due March 15th on the day of the luncheon. Any questions can be directed to Ruth Bradford Johnson. Restoration Ministries, another tenant here at First Presbyterian, is holding an award luncheon for phenomenal women on Sunday, March 29th at Strawberry Creek Country Club. Last year, OBUUC was listed as a patron in their booklet for $25. Mary Beth Silke would like to collect that amount or more for a quarter-page ad in their program. Individuals can also list a name in the program or a special woman's name for $25. Deadline for submission is March 9th. See Mary Beth Silke for more information and or to make a donation for the ad. Our January offertory outreach recipient, Weed Out, Racine received $1,290. You can expect the March Unifier in your emails tomorrow. If you need to reference the monthly Unifier email, there is a link in each Sunday's email that will take you to it. Be sure to check your monthly and weekly emails for more information on some of these announcements, along with community events and other news that are not announced here in church. Thank you to our volunteers today. Our ushers, Kathy Carson and Joe Cushing, our Zoom host, Patty Riemann, and our cell phone monitor, Jen Simpkins. We have one more quick announcement from Carol. Katie was not able to stay after the service today, so Carol has pamphlets and her card. If you're interested in picking that up, see Carol Pusely. That's all for announcements. Even though we are not having coffee hour for those in the sanctuary due to the service this afternoon, there will be coffee hour on Zoom. The link to join is in today's email.